Good morning, my name is Barry Wakefield. I'm a drum facilitator. I've been doing this drum facilitating since the year 2000. In the year 2000 something significant happened to me, and you'll notice that my speech is somewhat slurred sometimes, and my movements are a bit jerky because I've got Parkinson's. The reason I came into drumming into the drum circle world, was related to the Parkinson's really. I'd heard that drumming might help me, and so I bought a drum and started to drum. And that was the beginning of my story as a drum circle facilitator.
Okay, that's interesting. So who do you think, the first question is, how did you come to be on this path? But you just answered that. So the second question is, who were your main influences in your work?
Well, I need to go back to my childhood really, because when I was a little child, about 4 years old, I wanted a drum. I dearly wanted a drum, so my mum decided to buy me one, and I was actually getting my fussy out early on. So she thought I would drum for a couple of years, or maybe 6 months, then put the drum on the side and start using something else instead. She didn't like the idea of somebody spending his life banging on drums, and that's what I've done really. I've done other things as well in between. I used to be a runner, so I got the satisfaction out of the running to do a lot of rhythmic work, and all the time I knew that there was something wrong with me. So I was running from about the age of 35 onwards, and I knew for 20 years I'd got something wrong with me. The doctors kept saying, no, you're alright, you're running, you're fit and healthy. I saw you out running the other day, I was doing 6-minute miles, and the doctors wouldn't believe me until the year 2000. I eventually had a diagnosis, and the doctor said to me, go and read all about it and then work out how to treat yourself. So I read all about it and discovered the drumming. That's how I got into drumming in the first place. And then I wanted to spread the word to others. So I was working as a lecturer in psychology and counselling, training counsellors really. And one week I had a really difficult group who weren't getting on with each other at all. And so by then I bought a collection of about 15, 16 drums. 20 people in the group, so I took in the drums, put them around the room, and we had a difficult time in the week because people were falling out with each other a lot, like council trainees do. And they took up the drums, and we drummed for 2 days, and got the work done in about half an hour. The work that should have taken us 2 days, but the work done in about half an hour on Sunday tea time. And it did a lot of good in the group. It resulted in a lot of cohesion, so from then on, I was determined to find out what else drums would do. And I've used drums with people of various difficulties, and quite successfully managed to help people with the healing properties of drum, really.
So what do you feel that your main particular strengths are as a facilitator, then, Barry?
Surprising people, really, I think. I think one of the difficulties is that when I say I've got Parkinson's, people often think I'm looking for sympathy, but it's just to explain that my communication is difficult sometimes. And what I don't like is being classed as the classic noble cripple, somebody who's fighting against all the odds and all that sort of stuff, because I've got difficulties, but other people have difficulties as well. And when I first came into this thing, I came onto a Arthur Hall course, and it was a weekend when I was feeling really bad, and I just had my diagnosis a year before, and Arthur was making demands on people I just couldn't live up to. I had a bad cold at the time, and so I wasn't making contributions very well. Wasn't able to do much in the active part of the group. I could drum, but that was about all I could do really. And my facilitation was terrible, and people were saying, what's he want us to do? So on the final day, I started if I could do the drum call first thing in the morning. And I went in and put down a rock and roll beat, and you got people singing and dancing, and then you got them into the drums. And Arthur came up later, and we eventually did a public drum circle in the afternoon, and I went in and took a lead role in that as well. And Arthur wasn't expecting I could do anything originally. He thought I shouldn't be in there, because it might lead to a poor reputation of the group if I was doing something that didn't work, but this worked in the public circle. And
it's continued to work, hasn't it? That element of surprise,
yeah. If you come into the room in a wheelchair, then jump out the wheelchair and start jumping up and down and dancing, people wonder what's going on really, and they sometimes think I'm kidding. I think, but I think one of the things with Parkinson's is you lose track a lot. Sometimes forget what you're doing. That's an advantage in drums, really. Sometimes it's best to forget what you were doing.
Yeah, go in without a plan is the key, isn't it, apparently?
Yeah.
Another one of raised questions is, who do you feel that you were when you started? And how do you feel you've changed to the person you are now?
I was a professional counsellor and trainer and teacher. I think my main identity is as a teacher. It's interesting when people talk about teaching without teaching. That to me is real teaching. I also have a guerrilla teacher. They pick up things and snipe from the sidelines really, and get things done without people noticing what's the pressure they're under, without being under real pressure. And I think the way I've changed is I'm less bothered about getting things right. I think if you let people get things wrong, they learn a lot, and wrong is sometimes right. Really.
Takes you on a different path. So you've worked with various different people within different groups, haven't you? So how do you feel that your style and your approach is different from anybody else's, and how's that work for you in different group settings?
I think my attitude is different from a lot of people. I think the thing is that people often talk about special populations. I mean, people in wheelchairs or people with learning difficulties or whatever. And the reality is, if you put on public drum trailers, you get all the people turning up. I've had groups where I've had 8 wheelchairs in a group of 60 or 70, and the wheelchairs always the circle once a month, public circle on a Sunday afternoon, and you always had 8 wheelchairs would turn up, and they'd always go a quarter of an hour late. So you just get the group going into the groove, and then you'd have to make room for the wheelchairs. I used to have people with mental health problems would turn up as well, and because I'd call it a therapeutic drumming foundation, a lot of people turn up looking for a cure. They thought I was a healer or something, which I'm not, and I never tried to be. People thought they were going to get something more out of it than they did. And then some people would come along. I was excited to get new people who'd never drummed before, because I knew that it would help a lot of people, and it's just enjoyable. And you get people who've never drummed before coming in and surprising themselves. They can do things, and people can't drum if they just let themselves relax into it. Anybody can do drumming. And you're not going to be a sophisticated drummer necessarily, but you'll get something out of it, whatever you choose to do. One of the nicest relationships I ever had was with a guy, a really old guy who was a great grandfather. He used to come with his granddaughters, and he really enjoyed himself, and the kids enjoyed themselves as well. So it's a multi-age, totally multicultural activity, really.
So when you leave a workshop, what do you hope to leave behind you with the people who are participating?
A warm glow.
A warm glow.
It's interesting what different people get out of it, I think, really. I remember it's little individual things that stick in your mind. I had a woman come once to a demonstration I was doing at a public gathering where we were sort of selling our wares, really. And this woman came in and she was in a wheelchair, and she said she'd never danced since she was in the wheelchair. Her husband had died, and she just wanted to dance. So I got her dancing, and she really enjoyed it, and it stuck in my mind, you know.
Anything else that jumps out of you that you want to talk about?
There's so many things, really. And it's interesting, you don't know the impact you're having on people. So some people give you feedback, some don't. But everybody gets something out of it, I think. I think the biggest thing is to communicate with the group, really, and to cut off that divide between performer or leader and the group. The group, everybody in the group is important, from the youngest to the oldest, from the less able to the very able.
And when you read a group, read the energy of the group, you know, how do you then implement that into your different styles of facilitation? I
think you've got to be reading the group all the time. One of the things I always think that when the group starts, you've got to start off with them. It's nice to encourage people to drum and then join in with them, so that they're setting the agenda, really. That's difficult sometimes, really. Some people want to come in and dominate. Especially getting on top of them and letting everyone know that it's a place for everybody.
And what do you tend to focus on when you're doing a session? Does it just depend on the group at the time?
Depends on the group, yeah. I think it's because you're using whatever skills you've got, whatever reading you've got to do. You never know what's going to happen. You get up. The ideal thing is to get everybody want to do anything. So I always start off with some voice work, so that people get used to the fact that they can make a joyful sound anyway. Try to get people moving as well. If they don't want to, try to encourage as many people as possible.
Before they actually have to touch an instrument or a drummer.
Yeah.
And how do you see your role within that session then?
Ending up with a warm glow.
And the warm, same again. Same again.
Yeah.
Okay, should we leave it there for now, Barry? Because
Yeah.
you've answered everything and
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Do you want to end?